All right, it's Monday. That's J Leman Day, and it's a happy Monday in Champaign after Illinois gets a walk-off win. What a response. 34-32 over then number 21 USC. They fall out of the rankings, receive some votes as they take their first loss of the season, and Illinois bounces back from a 53-point loss at Indiana to beat a ranked team at home in another close one-score game. Brett Bielema now 11-4 the last 2 years in one, or what was the stat? I looked it up this morning. It's great record in one-score games is what it is. I think
one-score games probably. Yeah,
it's 6-1 the last 2 seasons. The last 3, Jay, which includes 23, it's 11-4. So they are starting to win close games, even in a year they didn't win more than half their games. So nice job by them. But Jay, I mean, what a response for this program. What did this win tell you or say to us about this program and what it mean for the season?
Yeah, it might be the biggest win in the Brett Bielema era for the regular season. I really believe that. You look at the strength of opponent. You look at the circumstances around it after a 53-point drubbing where nothing went well. You have injuries at key positions against a high-powered passing attack, especially in your back end. So you got the trifecta. You had a bad week prior. You are playing a good team. You have injuries, and you outplay the team during the game, but you make some really critical errors that you have to respond from. And I think it's almost more frustrating to watch the game as a fan than it is as a player, because the players are so locked in. As a defender, hey, if it's a turnover, you go in and get the ball back. Or if it's you're an offensive guy, hey, we got to go score. And so it's frustrating. It's like, oh, it could be 45-25, or it could be. I can tell you that players, if they're done right, I don't think Illinois does this. They don't play in that space that fans do. They play in the space of what can I do this play to give my team the best chance to win. That's how they're able to move on from it. That's why Caden Fagan, who gets a bad fumble call, is able to run for 60 yards after a catch, right? And so I think that for the program, one of the biggest wins for Brett Bielema in the era, when you look at opponent, you look at what they went through last week, getting their team ready to play, playing through injuries, especially on the back end. It felt like a patchwork on the back end. Just can we get through this game? And to have the mental fortitude to not only win that game, but win it like they did with a lot of adversity. It showed that this program is here to stay. And I do think Brett's good at close games. I also think it says a thing or two about the guy you have taking snaps in Luke Altmaier and his ability to win close games.
Yeah, we got to start here. I mean, if we're going to be critical about the offensive line, which was deserved through a couple weeks, Jay, we got to shout them out. We're going to go over it in the film room. The first drive felt like a message sent to both themselves and USC that, hey, we're going to get back to playing Illinois football in the trenches, and they owned it. They protected Luke Altmaier. Man, when you protect Luke Altmaier and give Barry Lunny the full playbook at his disposal, these guys are pretty dang good at what they do.
Exactly. And I wish I could say there was a ton different schematically. There really wasn't a ton different. They did some things, but I will say this.
Yeah, Jay, sorry to interrupt, but I was going to ask Barry today. It felt like they got a little bit more vertical, but it felt like an attitude more than anything in this. So, yeah, what did you see?
Well, first off, it wasn't like that USC didn't have guys in the box. A lot of times they had 6 in the box. You could see there were man coverage on the outside. They thought they could match up, take away the run and whatnot. But what I saw specifically, and I've been critical of Geske, Henderson, and Kreutz, I saw them really – you'll see it on good run plays. You'll see this wedge get created, right, where they start moving the line of scrimmage 1 to 2 yards off of the line of scrimmage into the defensive territory, right? And we talk about this a lot. Anytime I can get Caden Fagan, Aiden Lawfrey, Khalil Valentine, you pick the running back to the line of scrimmage without having to make a cut, you're going to get 3-4 yards automatically. That hadn't been the case against Duke, hadn't been the case against Western Michigan sometimes, or it certainly wasn't the case against Indiana, but you had the ability for them to actually make a two-way cut, go left, go right, because that line of scrimmage was changed. We'll see that in the film room. We hadn't seen that prior. We'd seen them making cuts in the backfield because there was penetration from that defensive tackle position mostly. Sometimes it was coming from the edge. I also thought our tight ends blocked a lot better as well. Tight ends blocked better. And that allowed us to stay on schedule. I did like the change up from an offensive line perspective of, you know what, maybe our backs are not the best blockers, but they can catch the ball. So rather than max protect, let's have some outlets, some swing passes. We saw it with Khalil Valentine. We saw it with Caden Fagan. Those turning into, rather than having them in the backfield, now you having a linebacker has to be dedicated to playing that guy rather than adding to the rush like we saw Aiden Fisher do for Indiana. And so it's like, okay, what are my strengths? If I can catch the ball better than I can block, let's get them out in the route that takes away a rusher and has an outlet for Altmaier where he doesn't have to make a huge play down the field to Beatty or Bowick or Colin Dixon. We can have a 3 or 4 yard gain or a 60-yard screen pass that goes and keeps you on schedule. Those are some of the things I saw briefly.
Yeah, great call on the tight ends. I thought Christian Abney had a really good game blocking in this one. Tanner Arkin kind of got back to what he's doing. But I noticed it watching the film, Jay, there was a Tanner Arkin release for a little catch, and he got a first down. It's like those are the things that felt like they were missing from the offense. But I gave a lot of credit to Barry Lunny in this one. I mean, him and Bart Miller obviously went back, looked at what they're good at, as you said. But that was a hell of a game by Barry. That was one of his best games. I mean, to outduel Lincoln Riley, who probably had a little more skill talent in this one, pretty impressive performance.
Really impressive. I thought that Barry had an answer for everything that they did. And you felt like in a big game, and they probably had it they probably had some of these plays for Indiana. They just never had the chance to run them. 8 3 and outs, right? And so he had some stuff in his bag. I thought he was impeccable on his Luke Altmaier timing as far as runs, right? I mean, not only the quarterback run to get the first touchdown, but I love that draw play late in the game. We saw that, I believe it was against Kansas or maybe Purdue, a draw similar late in the 2-minute drill. And I thought those were impeccable, but it wasn't just one guy, right? It's hey, we need to play. Beatty and Colin Dixon are your guys, but it's not just Beatty. Colin Dixon strong with some making the catch and the catch after the run. We're getting some serious yak. That was more yak in a game than I can remember Illinois really having, whether it's Caden Fagan, Colin Dixon. Beatty's always been slippery after, the catch. And Bowick, obviously, that was great play design as well in motioning Hank Beatty over, creating that one-on-one matchup. And then the RPO behind it really put that backer and that safety in a huge bind. So I've also really liked, I know we weren't great in the red zone because of the 2 fumbles, but outside of the fumbles, when we get inside the 20, it seems like schematically Barry has 2 or 3 plays, whether it be Philly special, whether it be that Bowick play, whether it be Luke Altmaier coming around the end to make a play that allow us to get into the end zone rather than field goals. And I think that's a critical piece to this team because it seems to me that he's always got 2 or 3 things that help us get 7 points. And you knew you had to get 7 points. I thought you need 40 to win this game. They were able to win it with 34. They could have certainly had 40. But you knew after that first half, they were not going to be held to 10 points in the second half at USC. So you had to score more points.
Yeah, and the red zone was an issue their first couple of years. They had to settle for a lot of field goals under Barry. So that's been a significant improvement there. Jay, I also thought like the fumbles, the Caden one. I wish we had what the ACC has with their review.
Yeah, when they understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, I love transparency, man. And I think it's great because then fans get to see it. And I think they would have said, we just don't see enough to overturn it, which I thought they did. But the Khalil one felt like that he needs to learn from that. Like when you get into that area, that time of game, I mean, that area at any point, you need to get 2 hands over the ball. Plus a great play by Gentry.
Yeah, so I mean, what I would say this, let's talk about the Khalil one first. So when you are in a situation like that as a defense and you are about ready to go down 2 scores late in the game, there is an alert that goes out defensively like, hey, we've got to get the ball back. So you kind of almost sell out to get the ball at expense of tackling because you have to get the ball back. So everybody's going to be punching and everything's like that because in order to win the game, you've got to get a turnover. You've got to get some kind of stop. And so you got to be alert for that, right? And I was bragging so much about Khalil Valentine's ball security, but it happens, right? And so it was good punch, good play by Gentry. Now, as far as the Caden Fagan play, well, we need to talk about this. Joel Klatt initially says he's for sure down, right? And then the ball comes out. To me, it looks like his side and his elbow is down. I don't think the ball's moving prior to that, but I think we need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, which is this whole you have preference on what the call on the field is, whether that call was wrong or not, right? So it's like you're guilty until proven innocent, rather than innocent until proven guilty. And maybe you can look at that different ways, whatever team you're cheering for. I understand what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that, do we really think they would have called that a fumble if he was called down on the field? I don't think so, right?
No,
I don't think so. So it still gives precedent to that call on the field, maybe a little bit too much, when I thought it was pretty obvious that it wasn't. And I was at the game. It was hard for me to see other than the Jumbotron. I saw some replays afterwards. But that was a huge play, a chance to double dip. But again, I think the fans, unfortunately, I'll put myself in the fans category as well, got more down about that play than what the Illinois team got down about. I mean, they didn't seem to miss a beat. They weren't a different team after that, and they just kept going. What's so interesting about this game, too, is they were very even. You looked at, like, the yards, the time of the possessions, the turnovers, they had a little bit more passing. We had a little bit more rushing. But, man, it was really even football game throughout.
The one problem Lincoln Riley had is they gave the ball back to Luke Altmaier in this offense too quickly, right? I mean, they'd given 2 minutes left for them to get in the field goal range, and you got a great kicker in David Alano. But, I mean, they ran the ball, Jay. As you said, that was a great timed run. But Caden Fagan had a few nice runs to start that off. They passed the ball once. They didn't have a completion. They got the defensive pass interference on Dixon. That was impressive. I mean,
yeah, let's talk about that, because I turned to the guy and I saw that you had a tweet as well that I was sitting next to, and I said, too much time, especially the way we were moving the ball. They really had not stopped our offense the whole. I mean, we had the turnovers, right? But I don't think did Crimmins punt one time. I'm not even sure
he punted once. There's 1 3-and-out for Illinois, that's 1 right. 3-and-out for USC.
So I thought, and here's the thing. It felt like Lincoln could score at will. I'm not sure he didn't just want to run the ball for 3 or 4 times, make Illinois burn their timeouts, and, maybe give us 20 seconds on the clock to make a play, or maybe go all the way down to nothing. So I thought that was a play call error. Now, it's easier said than done because you're still down by 6, right? And and offense is so rhythmic. And so, do you want to get the score? Do you want to, you obviously have to score. So I can see where he was coming from. He obviously went for 2 earlier, which I thought was a good move. But when you look at the 2-minute drill, you really saw we had time to run the ball, and we wanted to run the ball. I think the general strategy there would be get within a comfortable field goal range and then run the ball. We kind of ran the ball initially because we had enough time in 3 timeouts. Great job by the offensive line. Of course, a big PI call on whoever's guarding Colin Dixon on the corner there. And Luke then had that draw play, which was a good draw play. I thought Luke was going to fumble, to be honest, but he covered up the ball later. So I thought it was a well called drive by Barry. But it comes down to Luke and his poise. You never feel like he feels really rattled in those moments, and that's what I'm really excited. You feel like you have a guy that's going to go out and win that game for you.
One more thing on the offense. We're 5 games in here, Jay, and wide receiver was a big question mark. It's a strength of this team. Like Hank Beatty's toe tap, probably one of Luke Altmaier's best throws of the year so far on that 3rd and 14. Unfortunately, it didn't lead to points because of Fagan's fumble. But Colin Dixon showing some explosiveness. Maybe doesn't have that top-tier gear, but making some plays, and the timing routes with him and Luke look really good. And then Justin Boa comes back, and you see how big he can be. 4 touchdowns on 9 catches, and Hudson Clement's been solid. So I know it was the day we found out Malik Elsey's no longer part of the program, but it didn't feel like that's as big of an impact because of what they have in that top 4.
Well, what I like about these guys is they all have a little bit something different to them is what you need. You don't have a ton of clones out there. And I want to give credit to Justin Stepp and Barry Lundy. They really developed a nice little stable. We knew that Beatty, after a couple of couple games this year, is slippery in the open field. Really gifted, knows how to get open. Colin Dixon, what I like about him is his strength, his ability to block, to make the contested RPO catch, to make to step forward and make that catch between 2 defenders and then run upfield and, able to get 60, 70 yards, maybe not a burner. And then Justin Bowick is just a big target, right? I thought one time they actually, to that throw to Beatty one time over the middle, they had Bowick deep early. He didn't throw it to him, but he has the ability to kind of stretch the field, which is something that we miss. So he brings a little different piece to the puzzle. Clement's been really solid when he's been in there in game, and the ball has been on target. And quite frankly, those guys have been more productive than Malik Elzy. I think Brett said all the right things. He seems like a great guy and a great guy that you want on the football team. But at the end of the day, he wants to play, and there's guys that are playing better. And this is big-time college football. The guys that play the best have to play. And so I think they've done a great job. And I think Luke is the sign of a good quarterback is they make other quarterbacks and they make their receivers really good. And I would say this, he did that with Pat Bryant. He did that with Zachary Franklin. He did that with Isaiah Williams. I always laugh because Drew Brees probably had the least amount of Pro Bowl receivers, but they were always awesome when they were with him, right? Marcus Colston was somebody out of Hofstra, and he was killing it. And I think that's the ability of a good quarterback, is to make your good receivers great.
Fall's here. Crisp air, football, maybe a bonfire or two. But if you're like most guys, you're still putting in hard work. And yeah, that means sweat. Don't let body odor side on you. Mando deodorant plus sweat control is for real working guys. Formulated to stop odor before it starts and doesn't mask odor with overwhelming fragrance. So you can tackle anything from the job site to tailgating with confidence. Don't mask it, Mando it. Guys, Mando sent me their starter kit, and it is a fantastic product. It keeps you fresh all day long. It's not your typical deodorant. It's clinical strength, and it's 2 times better at controlling sweat than the standard. It controls both sweat and odor for more than 72 hours. And after just 12 hours, underarm sweat was reduced by 92%. This stuff works. So try out their starter kit, which includes deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like their mini body wash, deodorant wipes, and get free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code Illini at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. Shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. USC's offense is really good. They're a machine.
Yeah.
Illinois held them to their lowest output day in almost every category. But they still scored 32 points. They still ran the ball for 100-plus yards, and they still obviously threw for a bunch with Jade Maev, and J Leman is a stud. So do you have concerns? What would be your concerns about the defense, and did you see any silver linings?
Well, I think the silver lining is the ability to run the football not only helped their offense, but really, really chewed some clock off. And I know that still USC won the time of possession and whatnot, but I believe our ability to sustain drives was paramount to keeping them at 32 points. So I think that is beat them a ball to a T. We saw that be used against South Carolina. It was kind of a mirror game, a little bit of South Carolina, in which we fumbled in the end zone, in that game too. So that's that. Do I have concerns defensively? I do. I don't think that this defense right now has the ability to bow up and get a stop on third down that you want to get. There was a lot of third downs. There was a lot of fourth downs. And we just don't have a guy that can go and make that play. I actually thought the front line played defense. Maeva is a tough guy to get to. They get the ball out quick sometimes. And even when they don't, he's craftier than you think as far as his awareness in the pocket. I know Gabe Akis would think that he's one of the more crafty guys out there just because the way he kind of steps up and moves around. I'm concerned about our back seven. Somebody's got to explain to me, either Dylan Rosiak is banged up. I don't know if he got a little banged up in the game. It looked like he did. But I would have Dylan Rosiak out there as much as possible.
He had a good game. He was really good. It wasn't just the interception. He was really good.
He's really good. But sometimes in critical times, I know they're rotating guys, and maybe I'm old school. I would have him out there all the time. So I've got to get some explanation on why that is. I'm sure there's a reason. I'm not the coach. I just think he's a senior. He's your captain. I thought he played good in Indiana. I think if he's healthy, and maybe he's not, because I know he got banged up on one play, I want him out there. I need to understand why Malachi Hood didn't seem to play that much, because I felt like he was trending up. He was on my list of questions. He played early and then came out, and James Krutz played a lot more than he had the last couple of weeks. And I think where that hurts us, I'll get to the receivers here in a bit. We got hurt on the tight end balls. Now, some of those passes were unbelievable bucket balls in between 3 or 4 defenders. But you're able to run that bucket ball if you're not totally in sync. A bucket ball, I say that going over the top into a bucket, if your linebacker's not close enough to really make that play. And so that's not all linebackers and whatnot, but I think we could be better on that. It's not all DBs either, right? It's everybody. So there's that. Now, I will say I thought run defense was really good. So I want to that was a good run attack. I thought we were shooting holes. I think we did some great things with Miles Scott, bringing him up opposite the tailback in the shotgun, because there was obviously a tendency to run the zone opposite of where the tailback was lined up. And he made some great plays, a tackle for loss, but also made stuff happen. And so I like that. But let's talk about the defensive backs. This is where what I like is that guys battled and competed. They made mistakes. They battled. I think Tanner Heckel battled. I know he gave up two passes to J Leman. Hear this statement right. I think Tanner Heckel is going to be a good football player. Playing 8-man football in Kansas may not get you ready for J Leman.
He's ridiculous.
I mean,
he's ridiculous.
And also say he played at Champaign Central High School doesn't get you ready for J Leman, right? Right. And I've been jumped over by Brian Leonard and Ray Rice. So I'm talking to myself right here, right? So so he's really good. Do I think Xavier Scott probably bats down one of those? Probably, right? And that's the difference in games. I think it was a 4th and 6 or something.
7. Yeah, something like that.
4th and 7. That was a big play in the game, right? Huge. The game could have ended there. That's what got me, Jay, is you said it. Got to get off the field on these 3rd and 4th and longs, and they just don't have the guy right now who can make those plays to do it. Jaheim Clark had one, right? And that was partly because Gabe Akis wrecked that drive. That was a phenomenal drive by Gabe Akis. So you had one from Jaheim Clark. You need more of those. Teams are converting it. The Power 4 teams are converting at 58% on 3rd down right now. They convert 3rd and long, 4th and long. There was 4 plays that were 3rd or 4th and long that USC, credit to them, cap tip to them for converting. But Illinois needs a player that can win some of those at some point. And we're struggling to do that. I think it seems like our pass breakup numbers are way down from what I would usually say that we should be. Now, when you're in man coverage, a lot of times you have more pass breakups than picks because your eyes aren't on the quarterback. And so you're always trying to break up the ball and whatnot. I just feel like we're not in the vicinity of receivers as much as we should be to compete. Do I think Juice Clark adds a length and speed that maybe we don't have? Yes. It's really good to get him through that first game without any injury. Hopefully, he keeps on progressing. Torrey Cox is good, but he lacks some of the size on bigger receivers. I think Miles Scott right now is probably playing at the highest level of all the defensive backs. I thought Miles continues to be solid, but you're a rotating door right now with Bailey being banged up with the shoulder. Rasetic, I think, played 1 snap, maybe didn't play much. And I didn't think his injury was that serious. So I don't know where but Sabor Kareem, you got to give him credit. Made some tackles, missed some tackles, but battled. I will say that I thought he was competing, and boy, he looks like a great athlete too. He looks long, lank. You look at him and Clark, you kind of see what they're trying to go for, right? I thought Tyson Rooks actually came in and gave some good minutes as well. I mean, he came in. I know he's really long as well and has battled injuries. So that being said, though, there was probably 4 times that I counted that, 1, we weren't lined up or ready. And then number 2, there wasn't a guy guarding the number 2 receiver. Nobody was guarding him.
That felt like a Matthew Bailey being out problem, because you saw Miles trying to get Sabor in the place a lot. And we'll find out Matt Bailey, it was another shoulder. So we'll see what his status is, but they need him.
Yeah, it felt like you had a lot of young guys out there. And whenever I see guys not knowing where to line up or not knowing what to do on motion, you're going to have a lot of mental errors, a lot of missed assignments. And I think some of those work. Now, Lincoln Riley, honestly, I thought I would see him run the mesh route, which is just crossers like this 15 times. Now, he didn't do all that. He was more vertical with his stuff and his attack with the tight ends and Lemon. But he's going to scheme you up. You got to at least be lined up to start the game, start the play right. And there was just way too many mental errors on the back end. I thought the tackling was better than Indiana was, but the mental errors, I know there's a lot of young players out there. I know they're going to get them coached up, But if I look out there, you're not lined up, there's receivers uncovered, it just makes my head explode. That's why I feel we need Rosiak out there to help people. I think we saw some more base. We need Matthew Bailey. Sorry. That bothered me. You can tell I was bothered.
I get it. There's several times where they were just not ready for the play. They were not ready for the play, and it was just easy pitch and catch for USC. I just want to bring this up, Jay, because Aaron Henry is, because of that secondary right now, pretty limited on what he can do, right? I mean, there was a lot of 3 high safeties in that game. They did not give up explosives. That was the key. Make them drive down the field, and that led to 2 turnovers. That led to 1 turnover on downs. That was the key to the game. Just get a few stops in doing that. But there's just not a lot of, they're just not really stressing teams all that much. And he has some blitzes lined up, some well-timed things, but he can only get so aggressive with the secondary that you just can't trust back there right now.
I mean, I don't think that secondary we had 3 years ago was unreal. With Quan Martin and Sidney and Witherspoon. And you watch Witherspoon, I watched him play against the Cardinals, I think he's just a phenomenal player in everything that he does still. And the reason he's been a Pro Bowler. But I think Juice Clark has the potential to be a really good football player. He just hasn't been healthy. I think Matthew Bailey, when healthy, is a good football player. And Xavier Scott, no pun intended, was the X factor in that he could swing the multiple positions. We don't have him. Can Heckel get up to speed? Can Rasetich get up to speed? They've said that those guys have the athleticism, but they don't have the game experience. And I think that's the difficult part. I would like to see Gabe got some pressure. I saw some pressure from the interior at times this week, but I think we need more consistent pressure to help our back end. We just can't hold the ball forever. The 2-point conversion might be the number one thing. Literally, it was covered for 5 seconds, and they just waited for a guy to get open and dunk. So it can't just be Gabe. I want to see more out of the D-line as far as pressure, although I felt like they at least made Maeva move off the spot. But some of the plays, it was just way too much time, and I think we broke down.
Yeah, and I do think the run defense was encouraging, Jay. I mean, Raymond Jordan's a really good player, but outside of that second half against Indiana, this team feels more stout against the run than they were last year.
And I think a lot of that is James Thompson, it's Tomey, it's Kurt Neal. I think Joe Barna's been really solid against the run. He's strong. I know he's been a little bit banged up. I think Leon Lowry has popped even when he's off the line. Weren't sure about what we get with Leon Lowry, but caused a fumble. Has done some different things that have plugged enough holes. It just feels like you're razor thin there right now, and on the back end, and maybe not at linebacker, but you're trying to find what's the combination at linebacker you want. Kenena Odeluga comes in sometimes. You have JoJo Hayden, who gave some good minutes for sure. We didn't see much of Malachi. I'd like to see Dylan Rosiak out there a lot, just because I think he's our best linebacker. I think James Thompson, really, really solid football player. I was a little bit panicked when I saw him on the ground. Glad that he returned to the football game. I think we had Rosiak and Thompson down on the same play, which was like a nightmare if you actually know what Illinois football is made of. So glad to see both of them come back. But then I saw Bailey didn't have his helmet with him. I thought he got – maybe it was another head thing. Sounds like it's his shoulder. I know there's been issues with that shoulder in the past. So, man, hopefully he's okay because he is a difference maker at safety.
Yeah, in the run game, you could tell that in the second half too.
The tight end play too. We're going to see some good tight ends. There's Max Clare at Ohio State, one of the best tight ends, right? He tore us up when he was at Purdue. There's good tight ends in this league. They're going to see that on film, and that's going to be an attack point against our backers because they probably had 7 or 8 catches from the tight end position, I would say, for you. And they're good players that USC had, and Lincoln uses the tight end well.
Special teams, Jay. Good bounce back for them, too. Mm-hmm. David Alano was really good, but great operation to end that game. But also that they just played well. There was a couple kickoffs where they didn't send it in the end zone for this time, and good coverage. Andre Levette had a good tackle. So nice for them to make a big difference in a win, right? Illinois has to have good special teams against these good teams.
Yeah, no, I like the kickoff coverage. I mean, Alano, really since he's been here, has been pretty automatic. I'm trying to think of – I know he missed a couple last year, I'm sure, but for the most part, when you that one was probably good from 60 when he hit it. So it's been impressive to see. I thought Beatty might get out on that punt, just because he's dangerous and by good coverage on the, tracking him down from USC. We didn't have a chance to punt much, but I was making sure we had 11 people out there today or Saturday. I was counting them myself. So again, the special teams really was the beginning of that game getting away last week. And so, between long snappers, special teams, and officials, I always say, hey, if you don't notice them, they probably did a good job, right? And so if you do notice them, you're probably mad about it, right? The officials, we can say different things. And I wouldn't be surprised if that one fumble, changing topics on you real quick, gets reported in and somebody owes an explanation of who actually made that call that it would stand. So,
all right, Jay, just 2 minutes away from Illinois blowing a 2-touchdown lead against USC with some fumbles, right? So how does pulling that out? How does bouncing back from that Indiana game? How does getting that win change the outlook of this season moving forward?
Well, one, I think it always proves you that you can do it when bad stuff happens. It's like you can always lean on that experience for this team going forward. There's going to be a time where you give up 2 scores and you're down all of a sudden. You've got to respond. They're able to respond, number one. So I think mentally that helps everybody. On this team. And I will say all the young players we're talking about, whether it be the Heckles or the Sabork, all the reps they're getting is a huge investment in the future. You can't buy – there's reps against Western Illinois. There's reps against Western Michigan. Fourth quarter reps in a game that's going back and forth are a different kind of rep, right? That's how you build poise. That's how you build experience. Able to come back from that, that's huge. It shows me, though, that this team has a lot of fight in them. I loved and I loved what your tweet was about the strength of schedule moving forward. I saw that we had the number 1 strength of schedule, number 1 in the Big Ten, number 9 nationally through 5 games. And then we're 18th in the Big Ten, which is last of the Big Ten, and 50th nationally moving.
And that includes the number 1 team in the country, right?
It includes Ohio State, right? So you're like, okay, now the game's not played on paper. And I think a lot of these games are going to be a lot tougher than you think, a lot tougher, including the one next week. But that being said, you look and you say, for all the we went from playoff to panic to potential now. That's kind of been what we playoff before Indiana, went to panic after 3 hours of that game. Now we see the potentials there and possibly a playoff contender. One, you just have to say, wow, Brett Bielema has done a phenomenal job getting the right guys in place, beating ranked teams, being competitive. You feel like the Indiana game was a one-off as far as I think Indiana would beat us 8 out of 10 times, but you don't think they'd beat us like that, right? Because I do think they're a better football team than us. But that being said, teams improve throughout the year. Teams digress throughout the year. Keys to that are staying healthy and staying confident. We've stayed healthy. We stayed confident enough to win, moving forward against USC. And I got a lot of faith in Brett that he's going to continue to develop this football team to where it needs to be at, to be in that top third of the Big Ten, because that's where we're hanging out right now with the Michigans, the Indianas. USC would be in that category, that whole 4 through 6 kind of thing. I think, 5 through 7 kind of thing, because you think Indiana, Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State are all right there in top 4.
Well, Jay, as well as anybody, you can never feel confident going into a game against Purdue, no matter where they're at as a program, no matter where you're at as a program. Because, man, even the last 2 years are a microcosm of that. You go over to Purdue, you get smacked in the second half, and Ryan Walters' first year, they're a terrible team last year. They come in here, that huge second half to force overtime. You nearly lost if they would have called Luke Altmaier's fumble a fumble. So Ryan Odom's brought some – I guess just toughness and competency back to Barry Odom has brought some just some toughness back to that program, and they've been a little feisty the first couple of weeks, and they're coming off a bye week. So what do you think going into this game? What is keys for Illinois to take care of business as a road favorite?
So I what are they favored by? What, 7.5 or something, or what?
It opened at 13. It's now at like 9.
Okay. I would say this is going to be a 4-quarter game. I actually think this could be one of the tougher games on our schedule based on the injuries we have, what we're coming off of, and what we're going into. Illinois, might be one of the last teams to have a bye. I'm not really sure what it actually is, but you're 7 games in and you're really top front heavy schedule, at least on paper. That can all change. Okay. But I think this is going to be a very tough game. I know people might not believe me. I expect it to be a game in the fourth quarter. They weren't necessarily close to Notre Dame, but they battled some and made some plays on Notre Dame, a Notre Dame team that just boat raced Arkansas and got Sam Pittman fired. I mean, so they've got some different players. I think Ryan Brown is serviceable. Maccabee can kind of run the ball. They lost a ton of their defensive guys, right? Those guys all transferred out, and they had some guys transfer in. Okay. What's interesting is I think Cole Brevard, I think he's playing for like Texas or Texas A&M. I can't remember, like he was one of their big DTs. Dylan Thieneman's a starting safety for Oregon, right? They had some guys on that football team.
Nick Skirton was a high draft pick.
Yeah, scored. He went to A&M for right. A year, right? So, I mean, they had some guys on that defense. And so, but your question is, what do we have to do? One, I think if you're able to run the ball like you did, it makes every game easier, okay? So that's number one. Number two, and I didn't talk this, Luke really had great protection the whole game. I know there was an MA on, they brought an extra guy and Evok got killed. But thankful that guy didn't target and it was a clean hit. That's why I took it out. Just targeting's a whole other topic, especially if you saw that Penn State hit against Oregon. That's a whole other topic, right? That we
huge play just for Luke to hold on to that football. That could have been 7 the other way.
Between him holding on and actually getting up and not being concussed, I was grateful for that. But Luke was able to step into throws because Kreutz, Geske, and Henderson were much more stout. Again, previously he's had his moments. I think J.C. Davis has actually played well against the guys he's playing against. So his ability to throw the football in and make plays, that's offensively. I think Luke's going to be who he is, but can we run the ball? Defensively, man, we have got to get better in third down. We just have to be better in third down. Now, I know we got a fourth down stop, one against USC. We had 1 3 and out, like you said. But man, we've got to get off the field in third down. I expect us to be better because I don't think that offensively passing the football, Purdue is at the level of USC, but they're certainly serviceable. And so I don't think there's a J Leman running around, but they've got guys too. And so when you're playing with young players, anything can happen. And on the back end, and everybody's going to see that on tape. And we're probably going to see slot fade, which they ran twice to Tanner Heckle guys and J Leman. Again, we're going to see tight end over the middle again until we stop it. And so I think really running the ball and then getting off the field on third down is really the key. Of course, you got to take care of the football. That's obvious. But you do those things, I think you'll win this game. I think it's going to be much more difficult than people think, though.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. All right, Jay, before I let you go, Oregon with a massive win at Penn State. And, they were dominating that game through most of the game. Penn State comes back. Drew Aller, not a great day, but came up with some clutch throws to force that into overtime. But Oregon pulls it off as Dylan Thieneman. You mentioned him. What a play that was to pick off Aller. What are you seeing from Oregon? How do you think they stack up against Ohio State? Because it certainly feels like those are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten and probably the country.
Yeah, here's the deal. I think Oregon, I have them, not that I vote in some AP poll, but I have them as the number 1 team in the country. I think that it's a more impressive win than Ohio State over Texas when it was on the road at the whiteout. I don't think Texas is actually that good. Shocker, because Arch Manning's not great right now, at least right now in his development. And I think when you look at a good football team, you got to ask, how many ways can they beat you? And Oregon can beat you in a multitude of ways. Guys like Sadiq and some of the tailbacks that they have, and Moore's been good as well. But offensively, they can beat you a lot of ways. Defensively, under Tosh Lupoi, they've always been solid. So I see Oregon as kind of the best team. I think the game that actually decides the Big Ten is Oregon-Indiana, which I think is in 2 weeks. I think. Because I think Indiana can beat Penn State. I don't think Indiana plays Ohio State this year. I think they play Penn State and Oregon. But I think you could see Indiana, Oregon be probably the best 2 teams in the Big Ten. I don't knock Indiana for that Iowa game. I have seen that tape play so much at Iowa myself and other teams and other things that go into Iowa and win 20-13 and be like, you suck. No, that's just what Iowa does. Like every game is the same, right? And you got to make a play. Whoever makes a play in the last 5 minutes wins those games. Surratt made those plays. I think they might have the best two receivers combination right now. Jeremiah Smith's probably the best receiver. Sadiq is probably the best tight end. Or we might call him a receiver too. But Omar Cooper and Surratt. Surratt's just so big. He's tough to really guard when you go man to man, and we saw that with that. So I really think right now my top two teams are Indiana and Oregon. I think that gets decided the same. I think Ohio State, Illinois week. I think and Indiana has a bye leading up to that, so I think that's going to be. But Oregon's my number one team in the country.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to do my Big Ten rankings. I'm going to put Oregon above Ohio State just because I do agree with you. I think the win at Penn State is more impressive than the win over a Texas team that's defense is great, but their offense isn't. The Penn State side of this, obviously the big game James thing, people are going to talk about that, and it's fair. That's his record against top 10 teams. Do they have the passing game that can elevate everything else they have, right? Drew Aller's a good quarterback. Does he elevate them to an elite team in the country? That's what I got to see. I love Kotelnicki as an offensive coordinator, but their receiving has been lacking compared to the rest of the Big Ten. Their quarterback is good, but can he be great? That's my biggest question because I still think they're getting in the playoff. They're going to have their opportunity to do what Ohio State did last year, but I think they got to get elevation out of that passing attack.
Well, I think that Kotelnicki's limited because Aller's limited with his mobility, and I think I told you that I thought Altmaier was better, if not the same, than Aller. I really do. I'll stand by that. You look at what Altmaier is doing and whatnot. Now, they do have the two tailbacks, and that's kind of been their bell cow, and they can overpower most teams with those two tailbacks with Singleton and Kaytron Allen, right? So both those guys, and they've had good tight end play historically under Tyler Warren. I know he's left, but I just feel like Penn State is stuck in that third or fourth position. I still think Indiana's a better football team than them because I think Fernando Mendoza has the weapons on the outside to really make you get beat. And so, and Mendoza's got a big time arm. So again, I right now I have Oregon number one. I have Indiana number two. I know they haven't had the wins and whatnot. I think Ohio State has a better win. Ohio State lost so much on the defensive line. Now they've replaced them as they always do. I think they got two really good linebackers in Sonny Styles and there's another guy.
Reese.
Yeah, Reese. And then I think Caleb Downs is obviously an excellent football player. But I also think that they're not awesome at corner yet. Like we've seen some unbelievable corners come out of Ohio State. Like defensively, I don't think they're amazing yet. I think that Julian Sayin, I don't think he's CJ Stroud yet. I don't think he's Justin Fields. He doesn't scare me at that level. Now, they won with Will Howard last year, so they can win. But that was with an elite defensive line. You look at the defensive ends they had with JTT and Jack Sawyer and everybody that they had a difference maker on the defensive line. I don't see that now, and that's why I have them at number 3, even though they've beaten Texas. I still think Texas is a great win at home to start the season. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think Oregon, Indiana is the game October 11th. Indiana will be coming off a bye. You know, Cignetti has enough to be pissed about after that Iowa game to have something. And if they can stay, what's tough about Oregon is sometimes they can get away from you quick, like they did against Illinois. I don't think they're going to do that against Indiana. I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game, and they're tough to match up on the outside.
J Leman, you're the goods. We'll talk to you next week, man.
You got it.